that style useful or can be productive for everyone, even natural bodybuilders? Yeah, absolutely. You need more recovery time. When you train this hard, like Sergio and I have been, I mean, you need to recover. I mean, he's used to like resting, 3 days or so and doing legs again. When we were training like this, it's like 5, 6 days and you're just starting to think about the leg day again, okay? I used to train legs every 2 weeks and I got great results doing that. But what was important for you to know is the intensity was in outer space. The intensity was higher than I could even imagine. It was just so crazy intensity. The more intensity I was able to employ, the frequency had to be reduced. In other words, I could not train that way as often. Okay, so yes, anybody can use this style of training. It will be and is effective for anyone and everyone who's willing to go there. You have to be careful. The idea is not to injure yourself. The idea is not to take undue risk. That's correct. But if any exercise doesn't have a risk, it's not worth doing. When an exercise has an inherent risk, it usually means it has an inherent effectiveness as well. You have to balance the benefit to risk ratio. There's an exercise, most exercises that I use are extremely effective that have some risk. If there's too much risk and not enough effectiveness, I don't do it. And whenever any exercise becomes that way to where the balance is there's too much risk, I will abandon the exercise, yes. Okay? The idea is not to injure yourself, but the idea is to destroy muscle cells and to injure muscle cells, which of course is hypertrophy. I really think, and as soon as I think about hamstrings, I think about one exercise. That's the Nautilus leg curl, the lying leg curl. And not just doing the exercise for reps or for heavy weights, but by doing both, of course, like I always recommend for all body parts. But at the end of your set, when you can't do any more, having your partner give you assisted positive reps. I think stiff-legged deadlifts are really tough on your lower back. I did stiff-legged deadlifts for the 1975 Mr. Michigan. I almost didn't make it to the 1975 Mr. Michigan, which I won, because my lower back was hurting so bad. In 1981, we wore big trunks. I remember going to the 81 Olympia, and I was at the hotel room in Columbus, Ohio, and I was putting my trunks on. My buttocks were cross striations in my buttocks, and you could see muscles in my buttocks. And I'm like, God. I said, Joe, my training partner's name was Joe. I said, too bad we can't show this muscle. And 20 years later, everybody's showing their buttocks. And this happened to me by doing, of course, a stringent diet, but by doing the leg curls, as I suggested, really worked my buttocks and my hamstrings in an unbelievable way. So whenever I think about hamstrings, I think about what I just told you. Well, it's impossible to squat flat-footed when I have my feet that low on the platform, first of all. So from a purely anatomical, structural conceptualization, my heels are going to come off the platform. Okay, my heels will come off the platform if you position your feet correctly, like a duck with your heels together and very low on the platform. Yes, it does put a little excess stress on your knees, but if you have enough flexibility, which you should have, it will allow you to really train the vastus lateralis more predominantly. And that's my goal. The goal of hack squats is to really develop the vastus lateralis, the muscle which gives you the teardrop look. And by coming on your toes and bringing your heels and then coming to the top of the movement and flattening your heels out, it really brings the vastus lateralis into play. Keep in mind that it's impossible to shape a muscle. I'll repeat that. It is impossible to shape a muscle, but you can develop one head more than the other. The quadricep has 4 different heads, and it's possible, most definitely with this technique, to put more stress on the side of your quadricep, the vastus lateralis, and give you more of a teardrop look. My legs were never really that big, but I had that teardrop, okay? And when I walked on stage, it was like it gave me that kind of a look that nobody else had in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. Finally, I think people are getting it, and they're learning how to train legs, and these people nowadays, pro bodybuilders nowadays, have unbelievable legs. But back in my day, nobody else had them. That's why I stay on my toes and bring my heels off the platform and flatten my heels out. But one thing I do at the very top of the movement, before I lock out or partially lock out, I do tighten my buttocks very hard. So I'm stretching and completing the movement by tightening my buttocks, but my heels naturally do come off the platform and I'm on my toes. If you do squat correctly and do the hack squats like this, that's all you'll need. You know, back in my day, everybody did calves like 6 days a week, and I had the most success training calves twice a week, okay, with my body type, and really hard, intense training twice a week proved to be most effective. I did normal calf raises, you know, standing calf raises and seated calf raises primarily, and those two major exercises. But one thing I did on the standing calf raise on certain days and on the seated calf raise on certain days, at the end of my workout, I would put slowly and progressively as many plates as possible. Joe Gold made a special seated calf machine for me and extended the bar so I could put like 1,000-pound plates or 1,500-pound plates. And my goal was to just hold the weight at the end of my workout. So many workouts, I would just hold the weight, not up high, not real low, but in the middle. And I would just hold it and hold it. And you imagine holding, 1,000 or 2,000 pounds at the end of your routine, just holding it still until where I could hold it, I could barely hold it. I'd have some of the big guys, the monster guys in the gym push on it for me barely, and they'd watch me and they'd stay close to me. And as soon as I felt that it was getting too much and my tendons and ligaments couldn't handle the tension, I would say, take it now, and they took it. So I really believe, and that's my message to you, that the static rep, the partial static reps, maybe once a week, twice a week at the most, proved to be unbelievable. It was magic for my calves. Doing heavy static work, partial static work, and the heavy training, the hard work, old school training, the methodology worked best. That's the actual fact. I don't think I ever said that to a writer in a magazine. I may have, but that's what worked best for calves for me. One day I did high reps prior to that, of course, and one day I did real low reps. But, and I alternated that, high reps one time, low reps one time, but always the static reps proved to be most effective. I never really think about being old school. I think about being the only school. What worked in the old days, what worked in the 70s for me, in the 80s, in the 90s, in the 2000s, okay, is never changed. I think what has changed is people put more thought into, other things besides the training. Fun of the training, figuring things out, and that mentality of really having a great time, having fun in the gym, people forgot about that. They're into, well, if I take this supplement and that supplement, and if I do that, I mean, that's important. Yes, it's very important, but in the gym is where, you break down muscles. When you're home resting, eating, and sleeping is where muscles grow, of course, but there's a lot of things to do in the gym. The old school mentality in the gym is something that I always think about. It was just the sheer love of going to the gym.